Chapter 3, Visiting Earth. Upon awaking, I went down to find my master watching the sunrise. He smiled when he saw me and said, "The sunrise of your world is a beautiful thing. Ramaka is turning into a lovely place." I smiled at his comment and asked, "What shall I learn today, Master?" "Today you shall learn about a place called Earth," said the rock. I got the feeling his comment had hidden meaning, but I couldn't pick up what within the link. I was a little concerned. My master had given me the impression that Earth was a bad place. For an instant I was actually frightened. Then I realized that the rock would be with me and he would keep me safe. Rock put his hand on my shoulder and we teleported to Earth. It always startles me when he does that. I am unable to fold space and have never seen it done before I met my teacher. My master said, "We are in a place called Cleveland, and this place is called a park. Don't ask me why they call it that, I don't know." It was the first time I realized the rock didn't know everything. As we stood there, I noticed a man standing close by behind a bush. He appeared to be relieving himself. He stood transfixed, staring at us. After a moment, his eyes rolled up in his head and he fell down. The rock said, "Drunken idiot," and we walked away from the man. We walked for only a short while, and then many structures appeared on the horizon. As we walked over a small hill, even more buildings came into view. I'd never seen so many buildings before. Then off in the distance, I saw the people. I stopped walking and the rock stopped and looked back at me. After a few seconds, he said, "You must get closer than this if you wish to learn much." As I stood there, something hit me in the head and I almost fell down. A small white object fell at my feet. Then an earth woman yelled, "Are you all right?" She approached closer and the rock said, "He's all right. You hit him in the head. It's armor plated." I'd never seen a woman before except my mother. This one seemed very beautiful. She smiled and said, "Then throw back the ball, please." I just stood there smiling and she finally asked, "Are you deaf?" "Throw the thing back to her," my master said. I quickly bent down and picked up the ball thing. I threw it at her and she caught it. She looked at me oddly and said, "You're cute, but you throw like a girl." I smiled. It sounded like a good thing. The girl stepped very close now. She looked at me oddly again, then reached out and touched my head next to my ear. She quietly asked, "Are you sure you're okay? You look a little dazed." She paused and said, "My name is April. I'm sorry for hitting you with the ball." Turning to Rock, she asked, "Is he your friend? Are you sure he's okay?" My master nodded and said, "He's fine. We live in an isolated area and he's not used to beautiful women speaking to him." April's face turned bright red and she said, "Thank you." She paused for a few seconds and then said, "You two look like priests or something. Do you live here or are you in town visiting?" "We just arrived from Ramaka," I responded. My master gave me a dirty look. He looked from me to April and then said, "My name is Kalyan and this is Kaltar." The rock waved at me and continued saying, "We both just arrived from Ramaka, South America, and are new to your city. Kaltar will be fine as soon as you walk away." April looked at me and said, "You're cute, but your friend is a drag." Suddenly she leaned over and gently kissed me on the temple next to my left eye. I was dumbfounded, and as she pulled away she said, "Sorry if I hurt you." Then she turned and walked away. I started to chase after her, but the rock grabbed my arm and I stopped. The girl walked a short distance, turned, waved, and then continued on. I wanted to follow her badly, but the rock had a firm grip on me. After a short time, the girl was gone from sight. As soon as I couldn't see her, I turned to my master and said, "I liked her." "And she liked you," my master said with a laugh. He stopped laughing after a few seconds and said, "The people of Earth are unable to use their telepathic powers. Your ability to link will draw them. They don't understand why, but they'll want to be close to you." I felt disappointed. I thought the woman really liked me. Following my thoughts in the link, the rock smiled and said, "Don't worry, young magi. You'll have no trouble getting the attention of women. I just wanted to warn you before you take off after the first girl you meet. If you think being my student is confusing, just wait till you start dealing with women." My teacher waved around and said, "This is Earth, young one. It is a world of many wonders. It is also inhabited by a group of people that suffer from a madness. Some of them can be very dangerous. I've seen them kill and eat each other. I warn you, be careful when dealing with the Earthers." I thought about what he said and we began to walk again. After a minute, Rock said, "On this world, they've lost much of their mental faculties. They use mechanical devices to compensate for those lost abilities. In doing so, the Earthers have destroyed or poisoned much of this planet. The Earthers are kept imprisoned on this world so they don't infect and harm others." "Can't the Earthers be helped?" I asked. The rock stopped walking and looked at me. After a second, he said, "That is one reason we are here. Something is happening on Earth to change all this. The timelines have begun to change. The future of the Earth is being altered. It seemed change would be a good thing. I asked, can we help the Earth and its people? The master smiled again and said, that is what I'd hoped you'd say. Yes, Kaltar, we are here to help them. In point of fact, I have brought you here to help them. Me? I practically squeaked the word out. What can I do? The rock laughed far louder than I'd ever heard him laugh before. He suddenly calmed down slightly and said, you and I have come to help lead a vast armada to destroy the darkness. You shall be a leader of our people, and I shall finally know the peace of the long sleep. My mind reeled at the concept that I was supposed to fight someone. I'd never been in a fight before. The rock looked at me oddly for a moment, then said, you will learn quickly, little bean. We turned and started to walk back the way we came. We had walked for a few minutes when I heard the woman scream. The rock and I walked past some trees over to where the scream had occurred. There I saw 3 young men hurting the girl named April. One hit her and she fell down. One of the men kicked her and she cried out again. Several people were running away and nobody was helping the girl. I suppose I'd never really been angry before. I found myself running toward the men yelling, stop that! Just as I reached them, one of the men hit me in the face and I fell down. It hurt incredibly. Then the man kicked April again. I thought of hurting them and the men began to scream. The screams were high-pitched and the men grabbed for their heads as if they would explode. I was shocked and laid on the ground watching as the men fell to the ground screaming horribly. Then I heard the rock say, let them go, Kaltar. For a moment I didn't understand. Then I released the men from their pain. I hadn't intended to hurt them. It had just happened when I thought of it. For the first time I began to realize just how much my life was changing. The men staggered to their feet and so did I. The rock looked at the 3 men and said, I suggest you boys run away while you still can. The 3 men looked at each other and all took off running into the distance. The girl, April, had been crying, but she seemed to calm down quickly. She looked at us and said, thank you. Those assholes think they own this park. They need to learn some manners. I was trying to understand her descriptive use of the word assholes when the rock turned to me and said, you've seen enough excitement for one day. It's time we return to Ramaka. You're going back to South America already? Asked April, sounding slightly upset. Please don't leave because of what happened. This is a really nice place. Don't let those assholes scare you off. That man kicked you, I blurted out. That's Vince. He has anger management issues. He and his 2 brothers pretend they're a gang, but they're really more like stupid thugs. They rob people and commit just enough crime to stay below the police radar. Most people are afraid of their threats and won't call the cops. You see what I mean, Kaltar? Asked the rock. They have a madness. Appearing slightly confused, April said, they're really just kind of mean and stupid. I don't think they have any madness. Actually, I meant you too, Rock observed. I saw anger flash across April's face for an instant. Then she seemed to calm herself and she addressed me saying, you're sweet for trying to help, but your friend could sure use a lesson in manners. My master put his hand on my shoulder and said, we should return to Ramaka. Suddenly, April reached into her pocket and pulled out a thin slip of material. She handed me the thing and said, this is one of my old business cards. It has my name and address on it. I flipped the thing over and the girl said, never mind what's written on the back. It's just a little grocery list I scribbled down last week. I looked at the paper and read out, bread, soap, and batteries for a vibrator. Feeling confused, I asked, what's a vibrator? The rock quickly said, a device used to relax tired muscles. April seemed very relieved by the comment. I scanned the girl for a moment in the link. The mental images in her mind associated with the word vibrator seemed to have little to do with tired muscles. I decided not to discuss it with her and instead said, thank you for the old business card thing. April smiled at me, winked, and said, call me if you really want to see Cleveland. Then the rock put his hand on my shoulder and we folded space. I suddenly found myself back on Ramaka. The rest of the night was peaceful and I slept very heavily.